Animation titles have been around for nearly 40 years, and during that time we've been given 4 animated TV shows, and to say the very least, all of them have very unique and different art styles and animation, and they are all very impressive and really stand out for that version of TMNT. But today I thought it would be a good idea to rank my favourite versions of the animation, and yeah, so let's get into this one, let's go! Okay, so for the last place, I'd have to give it for the 1987 TMNT show. Now, while this animation is not necessarily bad, I don't think there's anything that really stands out about it. I feel as though that this animation, and particularly this art style, is very iconic to the TMNT brand, and is what most people would recognise with the TMNT brand, and it does really stand out really nicely. The animation overall for itself for the show has held up really nicely, and you can definitely tell that this is the Turtles. The animation is really smooth and nice, and there's not really anything really bad about it. The only problem I would really have to say with it is that there's nothing that really stands out with it. Like, there are certain episodes that do have that big OMG wow factor for that thing, but there's not really anything that really pops out to me, and that's really disappointing because this was the first version of Turtles. But other than that, I do think this is a really good animation art style for the show. Okay, so next up is the TMNT 2012 TMNT show. Now, this was the first 3D show to come out for TMNT, and to say the very least, it does a really good job. I do really enjoy most of the stuff which they do with the 3D stuff, and I do think that there are like loads of benefits for this 3D art style. I do think that some of the lighting for certain scenes looks amazing and fantastic, and really does rival some other franchises in terms of the animation, and it really does go to show that. And in certain episodes and even story arcs, such as ones in season 5, where they have to go to different places, it really does show it really shows all the possibilities in terms of what they could be able to do with the animation, and it does really hold up really nicely. The downside to this animation style though is the fact that it's 3D and is on a TV budget, and not to mention that this show did come out nearly 10 years ago. Now, the animation does improve over time, and I can admit that, and it does get better, but I do think that with saying that, it does have a lot of limitations in terms of having the characters not really changing their appearances, they don't really go to many different locations, and that's a real shame. Just because when we do get to episodes in season 5 where they go into different dimensions, different locations, it really does show the funness of the show, where it's able to go to Suki's world, go to the apocalypse, you know, really fun elements about the show. But when we're only given only a handful of episodes with that, it really just makes you wonder. And some of those episodes where we'll go to other locations are probably some of the best ones we do get. But with the majority of the show taking place either in the lair, the city, rooftops, or an alleyway, it really does limit the possibilities in terms of what they can do with story. But other than that, I do think that this animation has really held up really well, and I do think that another positive is that unlike most shows, where because they had to draw it by hand or by digital, some of the like height differences with characters and locations can get a bit muddled up. But with the 3D thing, I do think it does help that a lot with them being able to be all the same height all the time. So I do think there's like a lot of good positives about it, as well as a lot of downsides to it. And I do think it's more the case of like, what do you prefer, 3D or 2D? And I do think that's a question for a completely different time, but I do think that for the animation for this show, it does a really good job. Next up is the TMNT 2003 TV show, and oh boy do I love this one. As a kid, I grew up with this animation style, and I do love it a lot. And I think that because this show was basically created by comic creators and is a comic book show, there's a lot of comic book elements within this show, such as the art style with them able to change the different panels, with them like going from widescreen to like a close up on Toad's eyes, to then going to like a shot on the hand. You know, it's very expressive in terms of what they're able to show with the panels, and I do think that does have a different unique feel to it, with being more of a comic book show, and as well as the animation does look really nice, really fluid, and I would say that on a more grounded show such as this one, with the action being more grounded, a bit more realistic compared to other shows, it does make the animation in terms of fighting feel a lot faster, more fast paced, and really overall nice. And I know that Rise does give this show a run for its money, but we'll be talking about that one in a minute. But the only downside to this animation, and that is down to the fact that all the colours which are used for the show are very dark colours, to the point where you can't even see Raphael's neck half the time, and that is actually quite disappointing. And while you can see like a majority of stuff in the show, such as the outlining stuff, I do think that because the show did come out in such a time, the quality of it doesn't really help it either. But I do think that the overuse of dark colours doesn't exactly help the show much either, and that is quite disappointing because, you know, you're watching a show, you want to see stuff, and when you can't see it, it sort of becomes hard to actually watch it. But that's my only real criticism about the show. The art style for it, I feel like it's really good. It really does have like a really good comic book feel to it, really nice, and yeah. Okay, so next up is the fast forward / back to the sewers / Tales Forever art style. This art style for the show, I would have to say, is probably the best animation for the show. The art style is amazing, the animation is fluid, it is so bright and colourful, it is just amazing. And I do think that my biggest positive about this animation and art style is the fact that it is so bright and vibrant and really colourful. Now, while the show does normally take place at night in Back to the Sewers and Tales Forever, but fast forward does take place during the day, I do think that the vibrant and more colourful colours do really stand out a lot, and the animation does look a lot more fluid, a lot more nice and amazing, and heck, you can even see Raphael's neck, so that's always a positive. And I would say that this animation is arguably the best we do get from Turtles, except from Rise, but we'll be talking about that in a minute. But either way, I do think that this is arguably the best animation we do get for it. All the character designs for it as well helps it amazingly. And I know that some people are going to say, oh, what about the eyes for Back to the Sewers? But I do think that's actually quite a good thing for them, just because it is how to express them a bit more. And overall, this animation does look really nice. Now, the downside to this animation is the shading. On the Back to the Sewers and Fast Forward, most of the turtles are shaded quite nicely in terms of the skin, but when you get to the bandanas and the chest, they don't have any shading on them, so it does look a bit weird. But when you go to Tales Forever, when they go the complete opposite end, where they have free shading on them, and it looks good. I would say it definitely shows the budget on the movie. However, because of the free shading on the turtles, Casey, April, Splinter, it doesn't really look natural, and it just looks as though they've got 3 different shading on, and it doesn't really look natural whatsoever. But when you put it on someone like the Shredder with the armour, I do think that does look really nice in terms of showing almost like giving a light effect. And I would say that if the turtles were to have 2 layers of shading throughout all 3 these projects, on all parts of the Turtles, I would say that yeah, this is definitely the best part of the Turtle franchise in terms of the animation, as it is arguably the best part about it. Okay, so next up is Rise of the TMNT, and I feel like everyone knows that Rise of the TMNT has the best animation, and you just can't even argue with it. And I don't really know what to say about it because it is just so beautiful in terms of the animation. I mean, everyone has already said everything about the animation, giving positives about it, that I just feel as though that I won't be adding anything onto it. So I do feel as though that for this little segment, I'm going to be giving my reason why the animation is so beautiful. And keep in mind, I don't really know too much about animation, but I do think that the reason why this animation is just so beautiful is the fact that we can finally see it in 4K HD, Ultra HD, whatever it is, the highest quality we can find it in, and it looks really beautiful. And with the black lines standing out on the characters, it just makes everything pop. The vibrant colours are amazing, and yeah, I don't really know what else to say about it. It is just the best animation we've ever gone from TMNT. However, with saying that, I do think there is also a downside to this animation, and I would say it's more of my problem than the show problem. So with this animation, when I do some big, glorious, amazing fights, I do feel as though when I do the tracking shots on characters, or this even it's like special moves, I do feel as though that I do get very confused in terms of some scenes. And that's just because when they're tracking it, it just feels as though everything's just happening all at once, and it's not until after they finish that tracking shot I'm like, oh, okay, so it did that. And I would say that is more of a me problem than a show problem, so I'll let it slide. But that's my only biggest problem with this animation, is that at times I do feel as though I do get confused in terms of what's happening at certain points. I'll try and put up some examples on the screen right now in terms of what I mean, just because it's not happening in every episode, but they do happen at certain points in the show where it's just like, oh, yeah, I know what you mean. Or hopefully I know what you mean. So yeah. But yeah, that's gonna be it for today, guys. I am quite interested to hear what you say about this in the comment section below. What do you think about the animation styles across the TMNT? Do you like one more than the other? And if so, what's your favourite version of the TMNT animation? But yeah, that's gonna be it for today, guys. If you do like some, please share, like, subscribe, and all that stuff. Goodbye, yo. Bye.